right, everyone. Well, welcome back. And this morning we are very luckily joined by Eric, your boy Anders. So, firstly, Eric, let's get right into it. Obviously, a few weeks ago, unfortunately, had a bit of an accident. So, I just wanted to ask, firstly, how is the foot healing up, and is everything on track for the recovery?
Yeah, I think I really don't know what the recovery is supposed to look like. I just kind of play it by ear, but. I did it last Friday. I trained all last week, got the stitches out, I think, either yesterday or the day before, and, really never really stopped training. So, really hasn't hindered my training too much. Obviously I'm probably not kicking with that foot, but, I sparred today, was wrestling, been doing a bunch of foot lock leg attack stuff with John Danaher and those guys last week. So, yeah, it's good to go.
Wow. Eric, obviously you've done a bit with stem cells, I've seen. It's obviously a fairly new market in Australia. So it's interesting to see, other athletes using it. How has it assisted you in your recovery and also your injuries?
My neck was pretty bad off. I had a bunch of broken discs and whatnot. And, they injected them in my neck and in the disc. And, man, I could look over my shoulders. I was having a really hard time looking over my right shoulder, which, I think whenever you, take punches and stuff, you need to be able to absorb it. So, I think it's going to help in that regard. And, just range of motion. There's no pain. It's not stuck. It doesn't creak and crack as much anymore. So, it's worked wonders.
For sure. So, Eric, something that we see from a lot of mixed martial artists, high-level jiu-jitsu players, and high-level kickboxers is that they usually have to have a hobby outside of fighting. So something that sort of keeps fighting from taking over your entire life. So for you personally, do you find that you need to have a hobby outside of fighting? And if so, what is one of your hobbies away from fighting?
Man, I'm really getting into gardening. Believe it or not really something I ever thought that I would like, but man, there's just something about planting something and then watching it grow and then eating the fruit and vegetables that grow off of it. It's really satisfying. So, I started with maybe an 8x10 garden, and now I have probably I don't know, square footage, but it's, it's probably 4 or 5 times as big now. So, unfortunately I don't get to tend it very much because, I'm out here in Arizona and I just finished it before I came out here. So, I can't, no one really cares about your work as much as you do. So, getting my wife and kids to go out there and water it.
Yeah, they don't care.
Probably not going to happen too much. So, we'll see in what condition it's in when I get back.
Yeah, for sure. So, Eric, something very interesting about your journey that you've spoken about before is that you went from obviously a fairly good position in football to, as you put it, being a white belt again at something and having to claw your way back up to that sort of top position. Has the process of that journey benefited you more mentally than if you were to immediately transfer from football straight into your first fight in the UFC, after just a small amount of training? I guess maybe some of the more celebrity fights that we're seeing these days when dudes sort of transition in quickly from other sports.
I think for me personally, it's not like I just went from football to the UFC. There was, pretty, dark period of time where, I was living in a hotel, I was a janitor, cleaning factories, doing a bunch of other crazy stuff. So I think all that is what kind of made me hungry to train like I train, to, and fight the way I fight. So yeah, I think that, everything I went through to get to the UFC, I had to go through that, I don't think that just going from football to, boxing Jake Paul for a bunch of money, would have benefited me as much, mentally and mindset wise as it did to, kind of go from the top to, beneath rock bottom, to, back to the top again. So yeah, I think, the journey is part of the story, so Yeah, I'm happy now. Now I'm happy, but at the time it was,
Yeah, it was tough. Yeah.
upset.
Well, branching off that, one thing that I wanted to touch on, it is something that you've said in a previous interview, which is my career is kind of like life. One door shuts and I have to kick open another door. I think that the way that you phrase that is really important, which is kick down the door rather than wait for the door to open. Is that sort of mentality of taking life by the horns, kind of as it were, and showing it who's boss? Is that something that you've always had, or is it a sort of mental approach that you've had to develop or that you've grown into as you get older?
I think it's something I've had to grow into as I get older because when you're in high school, it's like you show up, you play sports, you go home, it's whatever. Like there's not really a whole lot to it. And then, I was fortunate enough to get a scholarship, go play college ball. So, everybody's kind of opening the door for you, And then, after that's all said and done, you kind of walk through the hallway and jiggle the handle, that door's locked, jiggle the handle, that door's locked. And you just get tired of all these locked doors. So, you have to, kind of find your passion and whatever it is, forcefully open the door, for, metaphorical phrase or whatever. So that's just kind of what I did. Shouldered that bitch down.
Yeah, Eric. Something we've had the opportunity to talk to some renowned coaches like Nick Sick and Tyson Chartier is judging and fighter pay. Are there any other issues that you can see in the mixed martial arts game at the moment that you'd like to see changed?
I would like the show win to go away. I think I should, especially like me. I'm a performer. I'm gonna go out there. It's gonna be fun for the fans to watch. I think that I should be paid all my money, win or lose. So to speak. Especially like these split decisions, because sometimes like the loser wins the split decision, and so that guy gets rewarded and gets all his money, and the guy who actually won the fight, is penalized, and loses half his money. So, I can't really bitch and complain too much about how much the pay is. Like I think that I'm paid fairly and paid well. I would just like all my money, win or lose.
For sure. So, Eric, your return has been booked as per the UFC for the 22nd of May by the looks of it, against Jun Yong Park, as per the rumor mill. On paper, it has the makings of an excellent fight. However, you have had the benefit of having a lot more fights with higher level opposition. Do you think that the experience that you have against the higher level opposition across two different weight classes is going to be a deciding factor in your next fight?
I think this is just one of those fights where, you're going to have to bite down on your mouthpiece and let them ride, I don't know if it's like an experience thing or a toughness thing or, I just, maybe we start off at a slower pace, but, he seems to be the guy. Once he gets hit, that's what makes him get going. And, I'm kind of the same way. So I think we meet in the middle and,
For sure. So,
throw down.
Eric, you also just talked about it earlier that you worked a bit with Danaher and obviously the leg lock phenoms that used to make up the Danaher Death Squad. So something that isn't talked about enough is your grappling. You are a brown belt underneath, I believe, Chris Connolly, who has experience not only coaching high-level MMA, but also IBJJF and prestigious ADCC. Is your ground game something that you think is still underrated? And do you think that you're going to surprise a lot of competitors and fans moving forward in your career with your jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, especially, I think it is like really underrated, and it's kind of hard to say that after, getting submitted in the first round in my last fight. But, it's a perishable skill. So if it's not something you're working on in training, you lose timing, you lose position. And, this is what makes good grapplers, and that's how I won a lot of my fights, taking people down, beating them up. And, I just kind of fell in love with the hands a little bit. And, just not really that I didn't do jiu-jitsu. It's just I haven't really put a lot of emphasis on jiu-jitsu and grappling, in past fights. And just wanted to go out there and knock people out. So, it's still putting it all together and, take it how it goes.
Yeah. Eric, you've had standout performances at both light heavyweight and middleweight. As someone who's found success in both divisions, would something. Would you support maybe a 195-pound weight class to sort of bridge that 20-pound gap between middleweight and light heavyweight?
You have to look at it from both sides. Like if they have a 195 division, all the 205ers going to 195. Like not. I bet you all the vast majority of 205ers can make 195. So then that just depletes the 205 division, which is already thin. But for guys like me, yeah, it'd be an easier weight cut. But me personally, I like fighting at 85 because I have to be like zoned in like all the time, 24 hours a day, for 8, 9, 10, 12 weeks or however long camp is. Because I have to like think about what I'm eating, So when I, drive past, Whataburger or McDonald's or whatever, it's like I can't have that, I gotta fucking I'm fighting, Jiu-Jitsu Park or whatever. So I gotta make weight or whatever. So I just feel like it makes me like more disciplined and I train harder and I fight at 205, I'm just not as dialed in.
It's funny, actually. I heard Dan Hooker say that last week before his fight that he feels better at 145 because he knows that he has to be stricter and actually zone in where he can't just be casual and have a burger here or some cake or chicken nuggets or whatever. He has to really zone in. So I think that's a good point.
So, Eric, final question from us. When it's all said and done, and while you will continue to have a very successful life outside of fighting, I'm sure, perhaps even in gardening, we could see Eryk Anders start his own sort of gardening thing. But once the gloves have been hung up in the cage, how do you want people to remember Eryk Anders, the fighter?
A guy who showed up every time, fought his ass off, didn't win them all, but he was fun to watch. But to be honest, I really don't. History has a way of forgetting everybody, unless you're like Julius Caesar or Genghis Khan or people like that. So I really don't care because I just want to make enough money to set me and my kids up for life afterwards.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Eryk, I think you've easily achieved that, and I think the fans will always remember you as a fighter who showed up, came up, willing to fight, and was always willing to put on a show for the fans. Eryk, thank you so much for joining us today for the interview. We really appreciate your time. All the best with your recovery for the injury, my man, and all the best in your next fight.
I appreciate it, fellas.